Arman was a 19-year-old boy living in a small town. His life was like that of many others around him: lazy mornings, wasted afternoons, and long nights spent scrolling through his phone. He dreamed of becoming successful, but his dreams never went beyond words. Deep inside, he knew something was wrong. One evening, his father, who was a retired school teacher, sat with him on the veranda. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and red. His father looked at him seriously and said, "Arman, you keep talking about success, but success doesn't come to those who waste time. Time is life, and if you waste your time, you waste your life. The greatest power a man can have is to control his time." Arman laughed lightly. "But I'm still young, Baba. I'll manage later." His father shook his head. Later is the excuse of the dishonest. Discipline and honesty with yourself are the real keys. Those words struck him. For the first time, he began to think about what honesty with himself truly meant. Was he being honest when he said he would study later, but never did? Was he disciplined when he promised himself to wake up early but stayed in bed till noon? That night, Arman lay awake in his bed. He realized that his failure wasn't because of lack of opportunities, but because of how he treated his time. He remembered an old saying, "If you don't respect time, time will not respect you." The next morning, he made a decision. He would change. At 5 a.m., when the world was still asleep, Arman forced himself out of bed. It was hard, but he told himself, discipline is doing what you must, even when you don't feel like it. He washed his face, prayed, and sat at his study table. For 2 straight hours, he studied without touching his phone. For the first time, he felt control over his day. By the end of the week, he had created a schedule. He divided his time into blocks: study, exercise, helping his family, reading books, and rest. He even made time for small hobbies like sketching. Slowly, he began to enjoy the routine. But controlling time wasn't easy. His friends often called him to hang out late at night. "Come on, Arman. Don't be so boring. Life is short," they would say. The temptation was strong, but Arman reminded himself of honesty and discipline. He would politely refuse. "I'm working on something bigger. Maybe another time." At first, his friends mocked him. They called him the old man and laughed at his discipline. But Arman didn't let their words weaken him. Deep inside, he knew he was building something they couldn't see. One day, his father gave him a worn-out diary. Inside, it were quotes and notes from his father's younger days. On the very first page, it said, "Honesty with yourself is the first step to discipline. Discipline is the first step to controlling your time. And controlling your time is the first step to success." Arman read those lines again and again. They became his personal motto. Within a few months, people around him began to notice the change. His teachers praised his improved grades. His mother admired how he helped her without being reminded. Even his younger siblings started copying his daily routine. But the real test of his honesty and discipline was yet to come. At the end of the year, Arman decided to prepare for a competitive scholarship exam that could send him abroad. The exam was tough, and thousands of students across the country would compete. Many said it was impossible for someone from a small town like him to qualify. Arman, however, believed differently. He knew the only weapon he had was his control over time. Every day, he studied for 10 hours with small breaks, never lying to himself about tomorrow. His discipline became his strength. But as the exam grew closer, doubts began to whisper in his mind. What if you fail? What if all this discipline is useless? For a moment, he was shaken. He even thought about skipping a study session. That evening, he looked at himself in the mirror and asked, "If I lie to myself today, how will I ever succeed tomorrow?" His honesty gave him courage. He picked up his books and continued. The day of the exam finally arrived. Sitting in the hall with hundreds of students, Arman felt nervous but calm. He reminded himself, "I cannot control the result, but I can control my effort. And I have been honest and disciplined with my time. That is my real victory." When the results came 2 months later, his heart pounded as he checked the list online. And there it was, his name, shining among the top 10 scorers of the country. He had won the scholarship. Tears filled his eyes. not because of the scholarship, but because he had finally proved to himself that controlling time with honesty and discipline could change a life. That evening, as he sat with his father again, he whispered, "Baba, you were right. The greatest power a man can have is to control his time." His father smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. "No, my son. The greatest power is to control your time with honesty and discipline. That is what makes you unstoppable." Winning the scholarship was only the beginning. Arman's life changed overnight. His town celebrated his success, and many people came to congratulate him. Neighbors praised him, saying, "You made us proud." His friends, who once mocked his discipline, now looked at him with admiration. But with new success came new challenges. Moving to the big city for further studies was not easy. The city was fast, loud, and full of distractions. There were cinemas, shopping malls, and endless parties. Many of his classmates came from wealthy families who lived without worrying about time or money. At first, Arman felt overwhelmed. One evening, a group of new friends invited him to a late-night party. "Come on, Arman. You're in the city now. Enjoy life. Don't waste your youth on books," they said. The words tempted him. He thought, maybe just once won't hurt. But then he remembered the diary his father had given him, especially the line, "If you control your time, time will reward you." Arman politely refused, saying, "I promised myself to live with discipline. I cannot break that promise." His new friends laughed, but he stood firm. Deep inside, he felt proud of his honesty. Life in the city tested his discipline every single day. Unlike the small town, distractions were everywhere. Social media, movies, endless hangouts. Time slipped away quickly if one wasn't careful. So, Arman created a new routine. He woke up early, studied in the morning when his mind was fresh, exercised regularly, and kept a journal of how he spent every hour. Whenever he felt tempted to waste time, he opened the diary and read his father's words again. But things were not always smooth. There were days when he felt tired and hopeless. Some days he questioned his path. Am I missing out on fun? Am I sacrificing too much? One night, after studying for 6 hours straight, he closed his books and whispered to himself, "Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. Freedom from regret. Freedom from failure." These words became his shield against doubt. Months turned into years. His discipline began to pay off. He became one of the top students in his university. Professors noticed his dedication and often gave him extra opportunities to learn. But the true test of his honesty and discipline came when he was offered an internship at a prestigious company. It was his dream job, but the work was demanding. He had to manage his university classes in the morning and spend long hours at the office in the evening. Many of his classmates quit, saying the workload was too much. Arman, however, told himself, "I must be honest with my goals. If I dream of success, I must also embrace hard work." 4 months, he lived like a soldier. Strict schedule, little sleep, no wasted time. Some days he felt like giving up. His friends enjoyed their freedom, while he spent nights buried in books and projects. One evening, his mother called him. She could hear the tiredness in his voice. "My son, don't push yourself too hard," she said lovingly. Arman replied, "Ammi, I'm not tired because of work. I'm tired because sometimes I fight with myself. But every day I win that fight. And that is my greatest achievement." His honesty and discipline impressed his managers at the company. They trusted him with important projects even though he was just an intern. One of his supervisors once told him, "Arman, we don't admire you only for your skills, but for your time discipline. You do in 1 hour what others take 3 hours to complete. That is a rare gift." Hearing this, Arman realized that controlling his time had become his identity. People respected him not just for his intelligence, but for the power he had over his hours. But then came a turning point. One of his close university friends, Samir, was caught cheating in an important exam. When questioned, Samir tried to involve Arman by saying, "He helped me too." The news spread quickly, and Arman was shocked. The professors called him for questioning. He knew he was innocent, but the situation was dangerous. If proven guilty, he could lose everything: his scholarship, his internship, his reputation. Sitting in front of the disciplinary committee, Arman was asked, "Did you help your friend cheat?" His heart pounded, but he remained calm. Looking straight into their eyes, he said, "No, I did not. I have lived by honesty and discipline every single day. I would never betray my values for temporary gain." The professors investigated further, and eventually, Samir admitted the truth. Arman was cleared of all blame. That evening, Arman sat alone in his dormitory, thinking deeply. He realized that honesty was not just about telling the truth to others, it was about living the truth with yourself. If he had ever lied to himself about time, maybe he would have also lied in bigger matters. Discipline and honesty, he thought, were not just habits. They were shields that protected his soul. By the time he graduated, Arman was not just another student. He was a symbol of self-control and integrity. His story spread among juniors, and many students began to copy his time management routines. At the graduation ceremony, his professor praised him in front of everyone. Arman has taught us that the real power lies not in wealth, not in talent, but in the way you control your time with honesty and discipline. He is proof that ordinary boys can achieve extraordinary things. The entire hall clapped, but Arman's eyes filled with tears. He remembered his father's voice on that quiet evening years ago, "Time is life. If you waste your time, you waste your life." After graduation, Arman received multiple job offers from well-known companies. Many of his classmates were surprised. Some had even been smarter than him, yet they struggled to get opportunities. People asked him, "What's your secret? How did you manage to stand out?" Arman always gave the same answer. "I am not more talented than anyone else. The only difference is that I controlled my time with honesty and discipline." Time is the most powerful currency in life. If you spend it wisely, it will make you rich. If you waste it, it will make you poor. He accepted a position at a multinational company in the city. At first, the work environment was highly competitive. Everyone wanted promotions, and many used shortcuts, office politics, and dishonesty to get ahead. But Arman stayed true to his principles. He arrived early every day, finished his work on time, and never wasted hours gossiping like others. Within a year, he was promoted. Within 2 years, he became the youngest project leader in the company. His colleagues began to respect him deeply, not just for his leadership but for his discipline. One of his team members once said, "When Arman is in charge, time itself feels organized. Everything flows smoothly." But life, as always, tested him again. One of his biggest projects was at risk because of a mistake made by another employee. The higher management wanted to blame someone, and pressure began to fall on Arman since he was the leader. The easiest way to save himself was to push the blame onto his junior. For a moment, he was tempted. After all, nobody would know. But then, he remembered his father's diary. Honesty with yourself is the first step to discipline. So, at the board meeting, he stood up and said, "The mistake happened under my leadership. If there is responsibility to take, it is mine." The room fell silent. Everyone expected him to save himself. But Arman's honesty shocked them. Instead of firing him, the management admired his courage. They gave him another chance, and he successfully fixed the project within weeks. That incident made him not just respected, but trusted. Years passed, and Arman's life blossomed. He built a career, supported his family, and became a role model for young people. Schools in his hometown invited him as a guest speaker. Standing in front of students who reminded him of his younger self, he often shared, "Discipline does not kill freedom. It creates freedom. When you control your time, you control your destiny. And honesty is the compass that keeps you on the right path. Without honesty, discipline becomes a prison. Without discipline, honesty becomes a dream. But when they come together, they create power." The students listened to him with wide eyes, inspired by his journey from a lazy teenager to a respected leader. One summer evening, many years later, Arman sat once again on the veranda of his childhood home, beside his father. The same orange-red sunset colored the sky, just like the day when their first conversation had changed his life. His father, now older and weaker, looked at him with proud eyes. "Arman, you've done what every father dreams of. You turned my words into reality." Arman smiled softly. "Baba, your words became my anchor. Without honesty and discipline, I would have been lost." For a moment, they both sat in silence, listening to the evening breeze. Then Arman whispered, "I've learned that the true power of controlling your time is not about becoming rich or famous. It's about living without regret. It's about looking at your life and saying, I was honest, I was disciplined, and I lived fully." His father's eyes glistened with tears. "And that, my son, is the real success." Years later, when people remembered Arman, they didn't only talk about his career or achievements. They spoke of his values, his honesty, his discipline, and his unique ability to make every moment count. His story became a lesson passed down from teachers to students, from parents to children. Sparkles, the greatest wealth is not money, but time. The greatest strength is not talent, but discipline. And the greatest honesty is not with others, but with yourself.